In a city where the streets were once filled with life, there is now only emptiness. Hospitals fueled by chaos and confusion as nurses and doctors disappear. Classrooms full of students but no teachers. And politicians are helpless.
Who are behind these disappearances?
Inspired by the mind of Stephen King comes a tale of horror and mystery that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Evacuation Nation, coming soon.
No, mate, it's the Australian government. We're nicking all your ladies and blokes.
That's right. It's not a horror movie, but it is horrific. Australia is openly stealing UK workers. And that's not me saying that. That's Paul Papalaya, an Australian politician.
We're here to steal your workers by offering them a better life in one of the most beautiful places on the planet.
What's at stake is our NHS, our police, and our education system. We are in a tug of war with other nations for our workers, especially Australia. In the UK, we're short by about 141,000 workers in 4 sectors: police, teaching, and medical. Australia is offering more pay, less costs, bigger houses, more land, and double the sunshine. Plus, you're moving to a country that has English as its first language, with many cultural similarities to the UK. As for the UK, well, it's going through a cost of living crisis, brought on in part by Brexit, and in part by a frankly evil government. And this is creating more expensive housing, higher costs, and for those in public service, less holiday, more pressure to perform, as well as a venomous right-wing press that frankly hates you for asking for more money or protesting. In fact, the list of things this government has done to attack the NHS is horrendous. During COVID, the government offered the NHS claps. That's right, just a clap and applause. By 2022, MPs had given themselves a pay rise, probably because of all that hard partying they did, which enabled 200,000 Brits to die. They then turned down the nurses' pay rise and cheered about it in the Commons. By October 22, they brought back charging for nurses and doctors to pay to park at their own workplace, in what can only be called a monopoly parking system. That's right, you can only park here, and we'll charge you for it. We'll charge you for coming to save lives. But it gets better. This dingus MP, Michael Fabricant, accused nurses of partying like the Prime Minister.
Like many teachers and nurses who, after a very, very long shift, would tend to go back to the staff room and have a quiet drink, which is more or less what he has done.
Over time, we started to realise that junior doctors and nurses were struggling to afford food, and hospitals were starting to set up food banks for their staff. But of course, MPs started suggesting that these hard-working staff members were just not...
I don't know any nurses or public sector workers on 30-odd grand using food banks. And if they are, I mean, my colleague Simon Clark was quite right, if they are, they probably need some budgeting skills.
This is Lee Anderson, a deputy head of the Conservative Party, and frankly, he is a nasty piece of work. Have a listen to this.
What do you think about food banks, though? Because we are hearing, particularly from some of the groups striking, such as the nurses, that their members are having to resort to food.
Well, I mean, I heard some nonsense a few weeks back that nurses were actually stealing food off patients' plates. I don't believe it, Adam. There's no. Funnily enough,
they need to.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. If anybody earning 30-odd grand a year, which most nurses are, using food banks, then they've got something wrong with their own finances.
If we are in a tug of war, we have a bunch of prats at the back pushing us towards the Australia team. In 2021, a survey of doctors who had left medicine over the past 15 years found that a third had left the country, and 91% of those continued their medical career abroad. And in 2022, 6,950 doctors applied for a certificate to work abroad, an increase of 24% on the previous year. The British Medical Association revealed before Christmas in 2022 that a third of junior doctors are planning to leave the UK, with the majority choosing Australia and New Zealand. The chair of the British Medical Association said the NHS is
perilously exposed to these kinds of tactics from other countries at a time when doctors and healthcare staff are in desperately short supply globally.
With a further warning from the Nuffield Trust.
Risk it will spiral further with 900 doctors moving to Australia to practice in May 2022 alone.
And it doesn't just end there. There's also the police. This is the National Chairman of the Police Federation.
We need every officer we have in this time of crisis. The impact of these experienced and trained officers leaving will also affect the ability of those newer in service to learn and develop, and to provide the best service possible to the public.
The Police Federation have warned that as many as 9 police officers a day are submitting requests to transfer to the police force in Australia. Meanwhile, Education MP Robin Walker said we're in competition with the global market.
Clearly, we should be worried about the loss of any good teachers trained in the English system. The best way to address that is by making it attractive to stay.
And again, when it comes to any empathy, sympathy or help, the right-wing press is quite happy to go out there and attack you, despite the fact there's clearly a cost of living crisis and people are losing jobs or becoming ill as a result of the horrible, horrible efforts from this government over COVID, and therefore the backlog, and therefore people getting sick because they can't get medical help. You've got the right-wing press going around saying stuff like this.
In other news, the extraordinary report that
Aquafresh Sugar Acid Protection Toothpastes strengthen and actively defend teeth from everyday sugars
suggests that vast numbers of teachers, I think it's around 70 or 80%, have taken in either toothpaste or toothbrushes to give to their pupils. If you are a mum and or a dad, and you haven't got money to buy your child a toothbrush, you should never have become a parent in the first place.
And it always comes back to this point. One country is saying we're going to give you a huge amount of money, the other country is criticising you for the low wages that you get and making out it's all your fault that all these things have happened to you. And we have some very serious issues on the horizon, with overall teacher training down by 10.5%. We've got shortages in physics, computing, maths and design and technology, all key elements to a modern economy, and we can't find the teachers. This is going to come back and bite us, and you've got, as I keep repeating, the right-wing press and the government attacking people for wanting more wages, and yet we can see without those wages going up, we aren't attracting people into teaching.
Many of our ancestors were sent from the UK to Australia as convicts. Now it would be a crime not to make the move.
Australia is offering a lot, and just have a listen to what their politicians are saying.
Higher wages, lower cost of living, an array of housing choices, and around 3,200 hours of sunshine per year.
Sydney, Australia has an average of 1,100 hours more sunshine than London. That's 90 days, or essentially 3 months. Dr. Edward Bridge moved to Brisbane with his partner, also a doctor in 2018, in search of a better lifestyle after becoming fed up with low pay, antisocial hours and feeling burnt out. Unlike in the UK, he said doctors in Australia are encouraged to take sick leave if they're feeling burnt out, and that they're paid double to work on a Sunday, or if they're called in for extra shifts, making him feel more valued. He said he has a better work-life balance with opportunities to go rock climbing, eating out, and taking holidays.
I've just had 6 weeks off, and this is pretty much the first Christmas I've ever had off as a doctor.
As you are aware, we're going through a cost of living crisis, and the Australians have the answer. They promise Brits they can have it all and boast that the UK energy bills, which have gone up by about $2,600 this year, will cost almost half in Australia.
Most of Perth's population lives a short drive from the beach where parking is free. There are no tolls on our roads. We don't have anything close to what would be considered a traffic jam by UK standards. And if you don't want to drive, public transport is also capped. The most you'll ever pay for a one-way ticket anywhere is £2.86.
Now, saying all of that, rent, food, clothing is more expensive in Australia by about 10 to 30%. However, you don't have to pay to park where you work. So let's have a little bit of a look at wages. GPs can earn 82% more in Western Australia than in the UK. Primary school teachers are paid 68% more, and nurses 58% more. Australian nurses are on a salary of about $85,000, and that's about £45,000. UK's nurses are on £34,000. Australian GPs are on $232,000 a year, which is about $124,000 a year. UK GPs are $72,000 a year. Australian civil engineers are on $120,000 a year, that's about £64,000, versus a UK salary of $37,000. Police starting salary in Australia is $63,000, also $30,000 a year. UK police officer starting salary is $24,000 a year. With salaries like that, you're starting to see why our police are trading and catching criminals in the rain for catching some sun. There was an added Brexit bonus. The Brexit trade deal between Australia and Britain included a workers' clause called the Mutual Recognition of Professional Qualifications Scheme, MRPQ. This means that professionals such as architects, engineers, nurses, and accountants who have qualifications recognised in one country will have their qualifications recognised in another, making it easier for them to work in Australia or the UK. And that's meant we've lost our nurses, doctors, teachers, and engineers all to Australia through this Brexit clause. There has been a change of tune from some members of the government. Steve Bryan MP, chairman of the Commons Health and Social Care Select Committee, said,
"Any country is obviously entitled to import healthcare workers, as we do in the UK from elsewhere. But there's nothing to say our people have to go."
And Tory MP Paul Bristow said,
"We need to demonstrate the benefits of working in the UK to help them stay. It shows that we need to redouble our efforts to recruit new nurses, new doctors, and demonstrate the benefits a career in the UK offers."
It does feel too little, too late. And it doesn't really contend with the problem that part of the Conservative Party and the venomous right-wing press seem to be really lambasting these nurses, doctors, teachers, and just about anyone else that are poor. And until the government realise that they're in competition and that there are countries offering better standards of living and better wages, we're going to be stuck in this quagmire for quite a while. Maybe this will change in the next year or so when the Conservative Party realise they're in for an absolute kicking in the elections and Labour are offering alternatives to these Brexit problems. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who supports this channel from YouTube and Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel, links are in the description for Patreon and YouTube membership. If you'd like to help out for free, just click the like or subscribe or notification button. All that helps generate revenue for the channel. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.